Hello, welcome to Model Kit Stuff, and today we are reviewing a new paint system. Hi everyone, Jason at Model Kit Stuff. So this video we're going to be having a look at a product. So that's a whole new paint system been launched by Gaahleri, the Airbrush people. They've released a paint system to support their Airbrush products. So in this video we're going to be putting it through its paces, and although the paints are aimed at airbrushing, I'm also going to see what they're like for brush painting with a paintbrush as well. Okay, so first thing I need to say is that I've been given these products by Gaahleri for the purposes of reviewing, not for promoting. Quite a big difference. There is an understanding between me and Gaahleri that I am free to say anything I want. So if I think something's not right, I can say so. I'm not going to hold back. I'm going to give you an honest view because that's important to me and it's important to the integrity of my channel. So there'll be no sort of bigging it up unnecessarily. What I'll say is I've got 3 out of 4 of the paint systems available. I haven't got the Mecha one, but I've got the base colours, the metallics and the auto colours. And we've got all the primers, thinners and clear coats that support the system. So we'll be trying all of them, well, not all the paints, but all the different paint systems. So we'll look at metallics, we'll look at non-metallics, all the different primers, the clear coats, and just see what we can do with it, how they perform, what their scratch resistance is like, you know, the drying times and all that sort of stuff. So if you think that this could be the paint system from what you've already heard, or you're not aware of it and would like to know a bit about it, this is the video for you. We're going to start with a bit of brush painting with grey primer, and then we're going to airbrush the other primers on my mule, and we can start seeing how all this comes together. Right, that's enough waffle, let's get stuck in. Right, we're going to start with the grey primer. And although it says a high-performance water-based primer specifically designed for airbrushing, I want to see how it behaves with proper brushes, not airbrushes. So I'm interested to see. So we're going to use the grey for that because the grey is pretty good at showing up any imperfections. Now it does say, as you read further down, it says repairs minor scratches and creates a smooth and refined coating. It also says it easily fills sanding marks left by 800 grit sandpaper. So I want to put that to the test as well, and we'll give that a test both in airbrushing and paintbrushing. So let's get some 800 grit fresh sandpaper, not clogged, never been used before, and create some of that effect and see exactly what happens, because this is going to be covered up easily by the primer. So I think first thing I need to do is just give this a bit of a dust down, because I haven't used it for a while. That should be okay, and we'll give the underside a little bit of a clean, just to give it a fighting chance. It's what I would do anyway. So 70% rubbing alcohol, which is the best percentage for cleaning plastic parts. Don't use the 99, it flashes off too quickly. You need a little bit of water content to be able to rub and get the cleaning action. You can see that's drying already. So we'll just do the area we're going to be painting. Right, there we go. And you can see it's surprising how dirty these things get. I mean, some of that might have come off the permanent marker there. Right, okay, it'll be interesting to see how it deals with things like that. So, okay, it tells us that we shake well before use. There is some form of, you can hear it, stirring ball in there. So you don't want to watch me do this. I'm going to give it a good shake for a minute or so, maybe a little more, and when I think it's all sort of mixed in and looks even, I'll come back to you. Okay, let's just do this little bit of sanding here. So you can see that there, it's basically the dull area, and because we're going to want to do it on the airbrush side as well, we'll do the same on that side. So we want to see how smooth that is when it's been airbrushed. Okay, right, I'll put my sanding stick away, and we are ready to go. So it's had a good shake. I'm going to give it, just blow that off because we might have some dust residue from the sanding. So this has come together quite quickly, I think. I don't know how well mixed it is. It's a little bit difficult to see. What I would say is it's a nice, soft, squeezy bottle. Whatever the plastic is, it's nice and soft to the touch and easy to squeeze, so it's not going to crease and stay there or anything like that. So it's a good quality bottle, I think. Right, so we have a little tab there to take this off. Okay, it's delaminating a little bit. And you see, top's come off and it's leaving the behind. Oh, that's not ideal. Yeah, that could be better. Right, okay. Let's put the top on. So we get a flip lid, pourer, and I want to see how tight that is now we've taken the seal off. Well, I've got no visible leaking. Yeah, and that top's working well. Okay, let's get some of this out. So this should be able to go directly into your airbrush. So first thing I'll say is the viscosity does look good. It dribbled out of the hole before I had a chance to do any squeezing, but it was completely full. So we'll just clean that up. There's still some rubbing alcohol on here, so that'll clean up nicely. Put the lid down. We don't expect to be 100% mess free with these things, do we? Right, so there we go. That's our grey primer. It does look like it's fully mixed. I can't see any streaking or anything. So yeah, there is some bubbles in it. I'd be interested to see what happens with that. Let's get you in a bit closer now. There we go. So this is not designed to be brush painted, it's designed to be airbrushed, but I'm interested to see So what I'm doing is I'm using two different brushes. I'm doing one that I can get in with the detail in, and one for big coverage. Okay, so I'm also interested in the drying time. So now I've put that down, I'm just going to set a timer and see how long until that's dry. So let's see what the drying time looks like. Bearing in mind this is brush painted, so inevitably it's thicker than if you'd airbrushed. Well, I'm interested to see how it settles into some of the detail. And this was quite crudely put together, this model. It's my experimenting mule, so I'm interested to see how the primer adheres, how it deals with things like clear plastic, which is a different type of plastic. I've got sink marks on here, I've got gluey fingerprints on here. So and then we didn't clean this area, the propeller and the engine, so I'm going to just see how it copes with an uncleaned plastic. And again, when we do the airbrushing, we'll do the other 3 primers in the range. We can also have a look at how well this behaves when rubbed down and that sort of thing, which is, you know, especially important for those of you trying to get car body finishes and that type of thing. And does it help the detail come out, so on and so forth. So I can already see where we've gone on with the primer in the first instance, and it's a little bit thick. It's already, I can see that we've got runs in it. I can also see where we had some of the bubbles. You see, let me get something to point with, bear with me. So here and here we've got a couple of runs forming where it went on a little bit thicker. And then here where we had some bubbles, those bubbles are staying. They're not popping, they're not leveling out. Yeah. So it's already looking surface dry in some areas. And we're what, 3 minutes since we put it on? Yeah, so the drying time's not bad. Would be quicker, I'm sure, when we come to airbrush it. So that's been sat there for a little while. I'm just interested to see how it behaves if we go back over it too soon. Oh, that's not bad. That's not bad at all. But is it gonna leave brush strokes now? Let's see. This isn't about understanding whether this is a good or bad product. This is about understanding how the product performs, so you know how to work with it. So yeah, so I can see there's a lot of pooling. You see there, those little dots? That's pooling that's happening as it's been brushed on. I'm already forming the opinion that this is probably not going to be the best primer I've ever used for brush painting, but I'll just keep reiterating, it is designed for airbrushing, not brush painting, but it is important to understand how it performs. Now you can see there, we've got a drip there, trying to catch it in the light. So yeah, the drying time is such that it's not giving it enough time to settle. So obviously when you brush paint a primer, you've got a lot less control than when you airbrush the primer in terms of evenness of distribution of the product. But it is, I mean, it's tacky now. We're 5 minutes in, and that's tacky. I can put a fingerprint in at 5 minutes. Didn't actually read what the drying time was on this. No, it doesn't actually give you a drying time on this. I think it does on the website and the leaflet, which I've not got immediately to hand. So we'll have a look at that in a minute. Right. It seems to be drying to a satin finish. So you can see on the tail there, it's drying to a satin finish. And actually, it's settling into the detail really nicely. So you can see here, there's a very slight indentation in the plastic, and that's very clear. My rivet detail is coming out really nicely. You can see I've got rivet detail around the wing, which I couldn't really see before the primer was on, so that's coming out really nicely. So this is boding well for when we airbrush. We did a little bit just on the side of the engine nacelle here. And yeah, the coverage there is shrinking nicely into the detail. So it's behaving very much like those of you in the UK that have ever used Halford's automotive primer. It's behaving like that, but obviously the pigment is ground much finer. Yeah, that's looking really good. And here, where we have gone over it with the paintbrush, I can see the brush marks because it was semi-dry when we did it, but it has evened out those drips and things quite nicely. And remember, this is a primer, so you can sand it and polish it and stuff like that as well. I've got to say though, I can still see the witness of the 800 grit. So I don't know whether we can get that picking up in the light, but can you, there you go. Can you see those little lines that way? That's the sanding. So has it covered it when we put a top coat on? I suspect yes. The primer itself, not fully. But that is an area we went over with the brush. So, but you can see where the brush line finished. See that line there? That's where my brush line finished. I can still see the sanding there, but only slightly. So being water-based, this should be easy to clean. It's about 12 minutes since we first dipped these brushes in the paint, and this is still tacky, so that is still drying surface. So we're going to try cleaning one brush in water and one in the brush and airbrush cleaner. So let's see how we get on with that. I'm going to do the big brush in the water, so just going to give it a swirl around. and that's got most of it off. Just give it a bit of a squeeze onto the side of the jar there. Well, there's not much coming off the brush, so that suggests that most of that has dissolved in the water. So what I'm going to do is put a little drop of washing up liquid in it, rub that in, run it under the tap, see how that goes. Well, that's cleaned up as if any other acrylic, water-based acrylic paint. So it cleans up with water really well, no problems at all there. So let's see how this gets on with the cleaner. Now we're 15 minutes since this paintbrush was first dipped in, and this is drying just slightly behind the rate of drying on the model, and at 15 minutes that's still tacky. It is a little bit warmer today, which is possibly slowing it down. I don't know, I'd perhaps expect it to be sped up a little bit, but yeah, I wouldn't want to handle that. You could still put fingerprints in. What I can see is where it's really interesting, where we had these sort of blobs of thick paint here, it's behaved like Mr. Surfacer, and it's sort of shrunk back, leaving a puddle that you're going to have to sand off. Yeah, I can absolutely 100% see where we sanded it with an 800 grit though. Right, let's see if this little seal comes off any easier, or whether it's a generic issue. Yeah, it's delaminating, so the tops aren't great. There you go, you can pull the foil bit off and it leaves the plastic seal completely on. So yeah, that could absolutely be better, couldn't it? You really want to be able to just pull that off. So there's a little something to be looked at by the development team. Okay, it's an easy fix though, it's not a biggie, just an observation. Right, now this isn't just dribbling out, I'm having to squeeze the drops out. So that's really interesting. Whereas the primer was running out, this you'd expect to be thinner, it's just waiting for a gentle squeeze on the bottle. The bottle feels like it's the same material, but because it's a smaller bottle, it also feels a little bit less squeezy. Okay, so let's see how this works. So I'm just going to check my timer. 18 minutes now, so this should start to be a bit hard. Well, you can see it's instantly stripping paint off that. So I'll just give the brush a rub. So there's some primer on the metal bezel there. I'm going to just rub that with my finger. Yeah, that's just come off instantly. Yeah, that's worked really well. And there's no detectable odour at all. Yeah, you can't fault that product. Now there's a little bit of paint residue left, a little rim of paint in the palette there. You can perhaps just see it there, where it started drying. So I'm going to use this brush cleaner to clean the palette, hopefully. Now I need something a little bit more abrasive, like my fingernail. So yeah, I mean, that's behaved like any other acrylic I've ever worked with, but it's certainly cleaned off the brush really well. So this product seems to work really well. We will be checking it out further when we do the airbrushing. But yeah, both with water and with the cleaner solution, you can clean your brushes really well. Although I've got to say the cleaner solution worked better than the water. So 25 minutes, and this is handleable, touch dry, definitely not fully dry. I wouldn't want to paint on this for another couple of hours minimum, I don't think. Whilst I can see the wetness of the sanding, I can't feel it. I mean, 800 grit sanding, it's a little difficult to feel anyway. And I must say it's a little warm in here. But yeah, I can definitely feel the wing is drier than, I mean, it's still a little tacky there. So it's quite a slow drying time. Obviously if you're airbrushing you could force dry it a little bit to speed that up, I think. But yeah, where we had the bubbles, you can see that they've not dispersed. So here where there were some bubbles, they've remained, so that's not ideal. And then we've got this pooling which hasn't dispersed, but we could go over it with the brush like we did before in this section to get rid of the drips. So that's got rid of the drips really well. So my conclusion is you can absolutely brush paint with this primer, but you want to be putting it on thinly and going over it a few times, just to make sure that you've got no drips or lumps, because they're gonna stay there. So you can see I've got a drip here, for example, where it's just collected as it started to run down, but it's not pooled in any of the detail, so it's not filled up detail. It's dried really evenly, and with a brush it would have naturally collected there. So it's coped really well with the brush painting, so that bodes really well for when we are airbrushing. So yeah, that's not bad. We've learned what we need to do. Now, whilst it's still soft, can I scratch it? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just rubbing off with my thumbnail, but it's not hard. So what that tells us is, whilst it's still drying, it's easy to damage the surface. So don't handle it until you absolutely need to, and until it's rock hard dry. So I don't want to do my spray painting on this until this is dried, because it's going to get in the way of the performing with what else we're going to put on here. And we'll do some brush painting with the colour paints as well at some point. Right, we're going to try these primers. I've got a number 5 needle in my GHAD 39 from Gaahleri. I put a small paint cup in because I want to manage myself. If I put a bigger one in, I'll end up putting way too much in. And I've got myself set on my compressor at a rated pressure of 15 psi. So they reckon you can use this from 10. This particular compressor won't go as low as 10. So we are on minimum pressure just to see how it performs. So I'm all set up, and what we're going to do is have a play and see how this works. So we've got 4 primers. We've already brush painted the grey on, and this is the following day. So Not quite 24 hours later, but not far off, 20, 21 hours, something like that. And I just want to see, I just want to do a little scratch test and see how well this has gone on. So brush painting, yeah, I can still see the witness of the 800. We're going to test that in a minute. But it's settled down really nicely. Even brush painting, which not designed to do, the product has performed well. Not exceptional, but well. And I'm just going to... So when it was touch dry, I could scrape it off. But doing exactly the same test, now it's been dried overnight, all I am doing with my nail is actually polishing it. It is not coming off. So the adhesion is really, really good. Yeah, impressed with that. So I'm going to go with the lightest colour first. We're going to do white first and put some white primer down. So we're going to give this a good shake. And then we'll put a few drops straight from the bottle into the airbrush like it says. Right, hopefully that's enough shaking. Now, I've had a problem with the seals. They seem to delaminate when you take them off, and because I'm aware of that, I'm going to try and capture the bottom of the seal. Yeah, that's come off better. So I'm looking for the little film and separating that separately. Okay, right. It's all water based, so that'll wash off. Right, let's get this top on. And we'll put some paints in the brush. So I've just run some acrylic cleaner through the brush because I was actually doing something else for another build. So I'm just gonna dry the end of the... So we'll run this through a little bit first. Right, I don't like the lid, as that's my first comment. It doesn't pour very well. So yeah, I was worried that might be the case. Okay, so let's see how this performs. So I want to just get some through the airbrush first before we start putting it down. Oh, and I need to put my mask on, so let me do that. So that's gone down really well actually, and I'm just going to try and air dry it now. So we're just going to run air through the airbrush and see if we can force dry. Yeah, so it dries quite evenly as we're force drying it. You can see that's gone down nicely. It's not pooled. Yeah, it's given us a lovely even finish. Yeah, have no concerns about that. And I put a little bit in the engine just to see what would happen, and it's not pooled. It reminds me very much of One Shot in terms of how this is coming down. Yeah, right. Let's go and airbrush some grey. So I'm going to airbrush grey on this side. So we've got brush painted and airbrushed to compare. Well, I have to say, the claim that the 800 grit sanding can be filled with the primer seems to stand up when it's airbrushed. So I can still see the witnesses when we brush painted, but obviously when you brush paint you've got an uneven finish. But on this side, with the even finish from the airbrush, it's just not a problem at all. I can't see any witness of that sanding. So it does, when airbrushed at least, cover minor abrasive scratches. Yeah, that's gone down really well, and it's covered over the white that was still tacky really well as well. So that's great. So our last paint to try is the gloss black. I've already loaded the airbrush up, so I'm going to shove my mask on, we're going to put it down and see what happens. So I've put that down at 21, and I didn't like that as much as the lower ones, and I think probably 17 is where it performed at its best in terms of pressure for me. That felt a little bit rushed, and the surface looks a bit grainy. We'll see what it looks like when it dries, and indeed whether it's shiny or not. Right, so I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to clean my airbrush, and then we'll leave that before we put any paint on, at least overnight. In fact, I'm going on holiday for a week, so it'll be a week before we do anything more on this. So it'll be interesting to see how this all comes out in a week's time. So it's about a week since these primers went down, and I'm really impressed with them. They're as hard as anything. I've just been trying to scrub this off with my fingernail, and you just can't. It really is as hard as anything. It's really, really good. So what we're going to do is we're going to put different paints from the paint systems to the test. So just as a reminder, I've got the auto colours, the base colours and the metallics, and we're going to try all of them in different ways. We're going to look at how easy it is to clean the paints, how easy it is to work with them. Do they go through the airbrush straight from the bottle as they claim? How do they perform? How easy is it to do a colour change in the paint cup? All of that sort of stuff that's important to you, the stuff that is practical. And then we'll let them dry, see what the colours look like. We might do some second coats with some and see if we can build that up. We're also going to do some comparisons. So I want to put some of the metallics on the shiny black and then put a little bit of them on the matte black and see if we can really tell a difference. So there's bits and pieces like that we're going to do, and then we'll do some clear coating on them as well. So if you're doing things like car bodies and that sort of stuff, we can have a look at how well that will end up coming up. So exactly how this is going to pan out, I don't know. I'm going to be using the Kaleido cleaner, which is brush and airbrush cleaner, and I'm hoping we can just put the paint in, flush it out, put another paint in. That would be awesome, wouldn't it? Right, I'm also going to be putting through its paces the new Apex compressor, and we'll be using Mobius 2 0.2 because we're only putting a relatively small amount of paint in at a time, so we can have a mess around with that. We don't need a bigger needle than that. So first thing I'm going to do is put the compressor on so you can see how noisy it is. Not really noisy at all, is it? I mean, when I'm talking you can't hear it. It's like a fridge really straining to run. It's very, very quiet. It takes about 45 seconds to fill the 2 tanks with air. So once we've done that, I'll set a pressure and away we go. So we're going to start with red. I've got the PSI set to about 15. All of these bottles have some form of agitator inside. So in theory, I just need to give this a good shake up. And then once that's fully shook up, we can put it straight in the airbrush, no thinning required. And that's what we're going to try out. Okay, I've got my regulator on the airbrush fully open. We're just going to put a couple of drops of this red paint in, direct from the bottle. We've not thinned it, we've not done anything. All I've done is shook the bottle, and now we are ready to go. So let's see how we get on with this. So air on first, and then we'll introduce the paint. Just going to blow it. There might be a bit of dust on it, we'll get rid of that. Well, that's flowing well. I've now just gone back to air to force dry. Well, that's gone down really quite well. Very controllable. Atomization around there is sort of what I'd expect. I wouldn't say it was performing particularly different to how I would have expected. Let's just do a slightly bigger area. Okay, that has gone down really well. We're going to leave that to dry now. So I'm just going to force dry it and then see how long it takes to be touch dry from there on. So there we go. I'm just checking the time. So it's 11 minutes past 8, so I've got an understanding. Let's have a look at cleaning the airbrush now. So I've just tipped the paint out. What I'm going to do is see if we can just change the colour. So I'm not taking the paint cup off or anything like that. So we're going to put a couple of drops of cleaner in and just give it a little back blast through. And then we're going to put a couple more in, and I'm just going to give it a good mix up with our paintbrush here. Just dissolve that paint. There we go, and we'll give that a spray through. It's certainly dissolving in the cup quite well. Don't know if you can see that. So let me just drain the airbrush again. Okay, we've emptied the airbrush now back into that paint pot, so I'm just going to give the inside of the paint cup a wipe out. I can still see red residue in the bottom, so I don't think it needs cleaner. I'm just going to put some straight tap water through. And I think that has got it done. So another wipe round just to be sure. Right. That looks like we are ready to go now. So let's put a different colour in. So let's put another colour in that's fairly pale, so if there's any witness of the red, we are going to see it. So how about we do some white next? Okay, once again we've just given it a shake, nothing more. I'm going to put a couple of drops in, not too much, because I have plans to use this white, so I don't want to waste it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to try it on the grey primer. We're also going to try it on the black primer, because I have a plan on an upcoming build with this white if it performs okay. So this is the brilliant white. So there's 3 different whites you can get. This is the most bright of all of them. So let's just get the cleaners through. Yeah, there we go, paint's coming out. So we're going to do a little bit well away from the red, because there's a little bit of overspray. Well, that's gone down okay. So we're going to flip over and we're going to do some on the black. So let's just get in. So I've been able to do some nice effects on the black. You can absolutely get a very pure, clear white. And I've been able to lay it down in nice layers so I can get some graduation. So I'm quite happy with how that's going down, and it's very controlled. There is a bit of overspray, but that's to do with my airbrush setting more than anything else. So yeah, I'm quite positive about that. I mean, white going down over black primer, never an easy thing, and it's dealt with it really well. I'm actually quite impressed with that. So this time we're going to clean the brush slightly differently, and I'm just going to use water and see how well we can clean it with water. So it's just ordinary tap water, it's not distilled or anything like that. So give it a mix. Interesting, it's gone pink, which suggests there's still some red in there. Though it was not noticeable in the white when we put it down. So that has left paint on the inside of the paint cup with the water, which we didn't get with the cleaner. I would expect the cleaner to do a better job than the water, but if I take the paint cup off, what I can see is the inside of the brush is clean. So if you get to it straight away, you can absolutely clean your airbrush. I do have a hard bit of paint in there, so I need to get that out. I'm going to have to strip. So what's happened is a bit of paint has dried on the edge of the paint cup and then has fallen in while I'm cleaning with the brush. If I don't get that out, I'm going to cause myself a clog, so I'm going to sort that and then I'll come back to you. Okay, I've cleaned my airbrush and we're ready to go again. Whilst I was cleaning my airbrush, I've left the paint cup, so the paint has started to dry on the inside of the cup, and that's something I never ever do. I would normally drop this into a little pot of water while I take it off and clean the brush so that the paint isn't hardening, but I'm interested to see how easily we can get this paint off. So, you know, it's a test, right? So let's test it. So I'm just going to put some cleaner in. I'm holding my finger underneath so it doesn't leak out, and I can keep the cleaner in the pot. I'm just giving it a rub with my brush, and it needs me to be quite vigorous. So this soft brush isn't going to work, so we need to do something with a little bit more bristle, I think. So I'm going to use one of these airbrush cleaner brushes, and that's worked fine. Yeah, that's totally clean now. So I wouldn't recommend you do this at home. I'd recommend you drop your paint cup in a pot of water. Well, if you're using acrylics at least. Yeah, that's nice and clean now, so I'm happy to just dry it off a bit. I'm happy to put that back on the paint cup and away we go. So let's put some more colours down. So it's 8:32 now, and the red is dry enough to handle, but is still slightly tacky. But what was it? 11 minutes past 8, so 20 minutes, and you can touch it to handle it, although I wouldn't recommend it. I reckon I can put a fingerprint in there. Yeah, absolutely. So after 20 minutes, it's still not dry. So the drying time is fairly slow compared to other acrylics. I'd be able to handle Vallejo with caution. I'd certainly be able to handle MIG. So yeah, gives us an idea of what we can and can't do. Right, we're going to do a blue next. So this is Cobalt Blue, one of the base colours, I think, and we're going to give that a go. I'm going to do the metallics last, just so I've not got metallics contaminating solids when we do them. So this time we're going to do something a bit different, and we're going to put a little bit of thinner in and see how it behaves. So putting a small amount into a palette. So this is the acrylic medium thinner, and I just want to see what difference that makes. And I don't think I've opened this before, no. One of the things that I will say is the seals on the bottles aren't particularly good, and I'm struggling to take them off. This one is delaminated as well. So that's my biggest con so far, that I can't get these bottles to open particularly well. It's a messy old job to get them open. So one drop, let's see what that does. One thing I quickly notice is the colour seemed to go slightly lighter. Okay, so that's quite thin now. Let's put another drop in, see what we can do. So another drop in. Okay, let's get this in the airbrush and see what happens. So worth noting, I just rinsed this immediately under the tap. So we decanted the paint into the airbrush and then I immediately went to the tap, gave this a swirl around with the brush we mixed the paint in, and it came out instantly. So very easy to wash, about the same as any other acrylic paint for washing out, other than alcohol based acrylics such as Tamiya, which are a bit harder to clean even immediately. So this washed really easily just under the tap. So we now have blue paint in here that is roughly 50% thinned. I mean, you saw what I did, a couple of drops of paint, a couple of drops of thinner. You know, I wouldn't want to say by volume it's exactly 50-50, but by drop count it is. So let's see how we get on with this. So why have I thinned it? I want to see if I can put a more opaque paint down. So I'm just going to check we're running. Yeah, we are. It's a really nice shade of blue actually. Right, let's see what happens when we put this over some of the white here. So if this was a more dusty colour, we could do some nice dust effects with this, I think. So yeah, this is interesting. Right, I'm going to close this up now, reduce this a fair amount. Yeah. So it needs a little bit more pressure. As you thin it, you need to be adding air pressure. Let me show you what's happening. Let's get the light here for you. So it's fisheyeing a little bit. With the less pressure, you can see the spatter patterns changed quite a bit. So you need a little bit. You need to up the PSI a little bit if you're thinning the paint. So we've had it at 15 and that's worked nice. But also because it's a bit more liquid, I'm getting a bit of spatter, so be aware of that. We want to be avoiding the spatter, so switch your airbrush on and then bring it to your work. But yeah, I mean, it's not running or anything, but it's definitely not behaving as well as I'd want it to. But we've been able to do quite a nice translucent paint, and if we had been doing a dust colour, we could do some nice dust effects there. So my conclusion is this paint doesn't need thinning. It's good to go straight out of the bottle. But if you do want to thin it, you can absolutely get some nice paint effects. Let's try some more colours. So this time we're going to clean the brush slightly differently again, and we're going to use the thinner as a cleaner and see how that performs. So poured a few drops into the paint cup there, and we're going to give it a stir around. I'm putting some of it through the airbrush, but we're going to tip most of that out. Okay, so the thinner is not as effective as the airbrush cleaner. So yeah, I just wondered if the thinner was as effective as the airbrush cleaner, would that be the way to go and have just one product? But I'm absolutely recommending you use the cleaner. Having tried water and having tried cleaner, the cleaner is definitely the best solution. Just going to open that up. I'd forgotten I'd closed it. So I think we are ready to go. I'm just going to give the paint cup a little mop out. Right, okay, more colours. Let's get stuck in. Colour many of us use, many of us dislike using yellow. Let's see how that does. And we're going to give it a real challenge. We're going to put it on both a black and a white primer and see what the difference is. Make sure I've got the thinner out, yeah. Well, I can definitely see the yellow is brighter on the white than it is on the black. That's absolutely what we'd be expecting. But it's gone over the black really quite well. So for things like pre-shading, you can get some really good effects there. But you can see how it's brighter at this end where the white is. And I was in quite close and laying it down quite heavy. And there's no pooling. I haven't managed to get this paint to pool yet, which I'm sort of trying to do, because one of its claims is that it doesn't pool around detail, and it certainly seems to be not pooling around detail. So yeah, really quite impressive. Get you a bit of light there. Right, we're going to have a play with some metallic colours now, and the first one that I'm going to do is aluminium. We're going to do a strip along the top of both the gloss black and the matte black, because when we do the other colours I want to go across over it and see if having a silver underneath it gives it a more metallic shine. My first observation is this took quite a bit of shaking before the agitation ball. You could hear it, so these need a lot more shaking than the base colours. So that aluminium absolutely looks glorious. I can't say that I particularly see it shinier on the gloss black massively. There is a slight difference though. Under the light I can see there's a slight improvement in shine in this area here where it was more glossy, to be honest. So yeah, I mean, if you were doing an aluminium aircraft, that would be looking pretty splendid now. That's a really nice metallic, because the metallic flecks are really fine in there. I mean, yeah, you can see them obviously, but it's very fine. It looks very authentic. That is very good actually. Right, let's get some more metallics down. So our next colour is Metallic Racing Red. So let me just put my respirator on and away we go. So we've got lots of different colours down, and I'm just going to let those dry, because what we want to do is let them dry thoroughly, and then we're going to test the clear coats. So we've put a whole range of colours on there. I'll talk you through my findings at the back end before we put the clear coats on, and then we can see how they behave. So last thing I want to do is just check how well these colours mix with each other, because this is one of the basic principles of this paint range, is you've got all these paint colours, but you can then make anything from them. So I'm going to give these a good shake again, and then we'll mix them together and see what happens. So I guess we start by putting the paler colour in first. So I'm just going to put a spot of yellow in, and then we're going to put a spot of red in. So it's roughly 50-50, that, I think. So that's given us quite a nice orange. I mean, that's mixed super quickly. No issues there. No, the paints mix really well. So finally we get to the clear coats, and the Kaleido range comes with 3 different clear coats. So there's a gloss, a matte, and what they call a semi-gloss or a satin. So I've had a little play with them, and these are my findings. So it's going to be a little bit difficult to see this on camera, but we'll do our best. On the top here we have all 3 of those clear coats which have been airbrushed on. So on this side we have a matte, and that's against an uncoated surface, and you can just about see it's slightly duller. And on this side we've got a gloss on the bottom half, and we've got the semi-gloss on the top half. Now on this bit here I've also polished that with a 4000 grit just to see how it would behave. Underneath I've done some testing with putting it on with a paintbrush, and you can see there's a matte section there and a matte section there. So my findings are this. Firstly, they go through the airbrush really easily, no need to thin. Secondly, it's a very smooth finish. You don't get any pooling, you don't get any fish-eyeing. It goes on very nice and even, and just like the paints, it doesn't appear to collect. So it stays where you put it, and it dries nice and even. When doing it with a paintbrush, it also goes on really evenly as well. Now I did do some brushing with the others, and what I've found is the shinier the better. So the gloss goes on the best in terms of you don't see the brush strokes, whereas the matte, you tend to see the brush strokes a little bit. And the reason for that is, and it's the same when you airbrush this, the more you put on, the more it does what it's supposed to do. So for this gloss, for example, here, if I wanted that really glossy, I'd be putting on at least another 2 coats. So the more coats you put on, the more it builds up the shine. Same with the semi-gloss, and same with the matte. The more layers you put on, the matter it gets. And when you put it on with a brush, if you don't spread it around and get it on evenly, where it's thicker, it will be matter. So that's all good stuff to understand. But it's really hard, it's really scrubbable. It doesn't give me a feeling of, there's no colour saturation in it. It's perfectly clear, which means you don't get a feeling that you've put a varnish on. You know, sometimes you get a slight hue, and you just know there's a clear coat on it. There's nothing here, other than a difference in the level of reflectiveness. You wouldn't know I've done it. So yeah, they're amazing. My conclusion is the paint system is amazing. So we've got the clear coats, we've got the thinner, we've got the cleaner, and then we've got the actual paint system itself. Let me put that there. And the paints have performed brilliantly. You know, I've had a mess around with so many of these paints now. I'm going to be using them in my next couple of projects. In fact, I'm going to be using these wherever I can going forward, because they are such good paints. I've actually ordered some more of certain colours I know I'm going to be using up front. These are tremendous, and whilst they're on offer, you should absolutely look at them. Now, below this video there is a link to the website. Please use that, because Kaleido know that you have come through me. That helps me with the opportunity to look at more products in the future. And I also have under the video my 10% discount code. With the 4 primers, we've got everything you could be needing to kick off a paint system. There are more colours to come. They are working on a range of military colours, so that will be exciting to see what they come out with and what they do. So this is the very beginning of this paint launch, so it's going to build in time. For me, I'm already hooked. I've already decided these are my acrylic paints going forward for airbrushing. I've messed around with them when it comes to putting them on with a paintbrush, and I'm really happy with them. So, you know, that gives me another paint range to add to the multiples that I've got, and I'm actually trying to reduce down the number of paints I've got. So it's really good to have a paint range that covers all the bases for me. So right now, well, it's you've got 4 different sort of ranges of colours. You've got metallics, the sort of base colours, you've got the automotive colours, and you've got the one for mecha. So this is the holy grail of paints, really, to have an acrylic paint that's not whiffy but performs like lacquer paints. It's the holy grail, and what quite they've done to make the paints perform the way they do, I don't know. These are the best performing acrylic paints I've ever used. Not just because of how easy they are to work with and how easy they are to clean up, but the way they go down, the performance when they're actually on your model, and how tough they are afterwards. Yeah, these are splendid paints, and you know, once again, Gaahleri are changing the game. So I hope that was useful, informative. You know, give them a whirl. You know, you don't have to go and buy a paint set. You can buy them individually. Get yourself a handful of basic colours and see what you think of them. Have a play with them. I think you'll be suitably impressed. Okay, there you go. I hope that was useful. So do hit the subscribe button so you don't miss more reviews of products. I will see you very soon, and until then, you enjoy your modelling. Bye for now.